Would you love to create a joy filled Christmas this year with your children? Our Advent guide, Unearthing Wonder, includes beautiful devotional readings paired with incredible animal stories from the book All Creation Waits to nurture a very heartfelt, warm, and cozy Christmas season. Each day includes this amazing animal story and a little animal ornament that your kids can color while you're reading. And then there is a devotional that's geared towards nurturing connection and helping build a strong and solid family culture. You can grab Unearthing Wonder Advent Guide at the link in our show notes or at thepeacefulpress.com. This is Jennifer Pepito with the Restoration Home podcast. This is the show where we talk about the peaceful path to connected families and restored communities. Today on the show, I'm chatting with Emily, and we wanted to talk a little bit about filtering out the adult world, especially in light of current events. There was a lot of bad news last week, a lot of really sad news, and it's heavy for us as moms to deal with and as adults. And so we wanted to talk about how to process with our children, when to process, and when to keep things a little bit more innocent. Thanks for joining me, Emily.
Thanks for having me on.
We were missionaries in Mexico, and it was a time when there was actually a lot of cartel violence. Like, I remember when we were getting ready to move from Chula Vista into the house that dad built in Mexico. And there were people who were coming to look at the house and they're like, oh, we would never move down there. It's way too dangerous. And, we did move down there. And I can remember feeling pretty scared, honestly. Like there was one night where dad was gone on the other side, I think, taking you to speech and debate. And somebody knocked on the door downstairs, and we lived on this very isolated ranch. We could see Tijuana, like Tijuana was just behind us, and there was a housing community kind of in front of us, but we were on this ranch. It felt pretty isolated. Did not really have a cell phone, and somebody knocked on the door. You weren't home, so I can't ask how you felt about that. But, you know, I remember being a little scared and also trying to not let my kids know that I was scared. Another time in my own childhood, my mom and dad were moving from Canada to Oregon, and my mom and dad were in separate cars because my dad had the U-Haul or whatever, and my mom was in a vehicle with some of the kids. So there was 5 kids in our family. My mom had some, my dad had some. And they got separated, and there was no way to get back in touch. Like, we didn't have cell phones at the time. This was back in probably the early 80s, late 70s, and they were lost from each other. And my mom took us to get food somewhere, maybe a Denny's or something. And I love my mom, but she was eating her food and she found a piece of glass in her food. And she said, ugh, I probably ate glass and I'm going to die now. As a child, that was actually pretty impactful for me because she was scared and that made me feel scared too. Like if my mom was that scared and worried and depressed, I felt it too. And I would just love to hear from your perspective because I was also really scared sometimes. Like when we were in Mexico, I was really scared. And so I wanted to talk in this podcast about, processing things with our kids and how to protect them, but also not, you know, I think sometimes people are afraid of over sheltering their kids. And so I just wanted to kind of hear your perspective because I was also sometimes really scared about some of our life situations that we lived.
Yeah, and I don't think this is the first time that I have heard about the knock on the door in Tijuana. I did not know about that. That's crazy. That would be very frightening because it was remote. There wasn't like when you talk about a community in front of us and behind us, they were a long ways away. It was not like Yeah, we were very remote, very out
Yeah,
there.
yeah, and I think I did answer the door maybe, or maybe I called out the window above because our we did have bars on our windows and they were locked,
Okay,
and
so the
so I
front door
might
was
have.
locked too, probably?
Yes, the front door was locked, so I think from the upstairs, I just called out like, "Hey, what who are you? What do you need?" You know, because we were I was there with alone with many small children and pretty much defenseless, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it was not a fun experience, and, the Lord kept us, so nothing happened, but it was definitely I had and in a way, I had reason to be afraid, like, that's one of the things I think that we in the world right now, like, do we have reason to be afraid? I mean, it's pretty dramatic. I was thinking about this too today. It's not often. Like, when was the last time you can think of a political, like a famous person getting killed? Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't really remember, not in my lifetime even. Like, I was not alive for John F. Kennedy. I was not alive for Martin Luther King Jr. And so this is like a pretty big deal, and I don't know what all's going on behind the scenes and under the surface, and I don't know what all's going on, but I can understand why people are having prayer vigils and why people are depressed and sad and scared, and not just that, because there's also, there's been school shootings and there's been, a girl, on a train and that situation. So if you're listening and you haven't heard about some of these things, I'm sorry to tell you because one of the things I did tell the Restoration Home community is we would you know about this if you lived in a small village? Because I think one of the real toxins of our time is we just know too much. We know too much, we know too fast, and we know too much detail. Like, it's bad enough to know some of this stuff, but then to see videos over and over and over again, nobody's vagus nerves can handle that. Nobody's regulatory system can handle that. And, so I wanna hear your perspective on me being afraid, but for me, like, even though that thing with my mom, it was really small and minor and, like, she had a reason to be scared. She was separated from my dad for the night, not like a marriage separation, but, like, they were driving together to another state or from Canada to another country, basically, and got physically separated from each other, and she didn't know when she'd see him again. No way to get a hold of each other. And so I can understand why she was scared. I would certainly have been scared too. And as we, live in this world, we've read so many missionary biographies, and there's some terrifying things that happen. Like Darlene Deibler Rose, one of our favorite missionary stories. She's imprisoned and tortured. Corey Ten Boom, imprisoned and tortured. So some of our favorite stories that we have read out loud to our children are of very dramatic and terrible situations. So just tell us a little bit about your perspective on filtering out the adult world, and I say adult world, filtering out the adult world and protecting our children from fearful news.
So, for one thing, first off, this is a time to grieve for sure. I think no matter what your political beliefs are, the death of a father is a devastating thing, and murder is a blot on our nation. So, definitely worth grieving. And for all the other violence this last week. That being said, like your children will react in several ways. There's different types of children. One child is going to become very like you could have 3 5-year-olds and all 3 5-year-olds are going to respond differently. And one 5-year-old is going to become hyper active. They're going to become they're going to misbehave out of a reaction to your fear. They're going to be stressed and it's going to come out in attention seeking and bad behavior. And I actually don't understand that type fully because that wasn't the way I expressed the residual fear I felt from my parents. Um, your other type is just going to withdraw. They're just going to shut down and withdraw. They're going to be distant. You're not really going to know how badly they're affected by it, not until it starts to come up and surface later on in their early adulthood. And the third type is going to more likely an oldest child type, which is the one I can more relate to, is it's going to be the one that is like, it's okay. I got this. I have the baseball bat. I have the plan. I have everything's going to be okay. We're going to figure this out. That one. And all three types of reactions are equally harmful in a small child because they should not be the parent. They should not feel unsafe. and have to withdraw, and they should not feel unsafe and spiral out. And it's honestly like been one of the, and this is no blame to my parents. Like there's so much in life that we experience and we can't control, but the long-term emotional effect of having some unfiltered fear and adult emotions um, directly affect me as a small child is such that even today, when something goes wrong, I don't feel safe to feel because I'm like, I have to be strong. I have to be on top of things. I have to be the one who's holding everything together. And even like right now in my relationship, there's a lot of change happening because my boyfriend is moving for work, and so we're going through this, and I'm like, oh, I have to. I'm sad. I'm grieving, but there's no room in the world in which I've constructed for myself since a small child to be safe, to be needy and broken. Like, and I'm not saying like having a bad behavior, but just being like, hey, I'm going to cry and it's okay that I'm crying. I'm like, no, I have to not cry. I have to have everything together. I have to be okay all the time. And I'm sure that the children who experience the other two types of responses to parental emotions could speak also more eloquently on how they felt. But essentially, your small children don't have the capacity to handle these big emotions. And like you said, Mom, there's news that we're getting now. Like we don't even have any resolution on the Charlie Kirk thing. We don't know who did it. We don't know why they did it. We know nothing. All we know is it happened and we're following it in real time, and that leaves room for conjecture. And if this was 200 years ago, we might hear about it in 5 days. And in those 5 days, it would be somewhat removed from us, and we'd probably be more concerned about our community, and so the bigness of it would be a little smaller. Um and and we don't have that luxury now. We don't, and it's okay to be informed. Like I don't think it's wrong to know what's going on, but it's going to affect your children if you can't grieve and process those emotions properly. And so while it's okay to be informed, I would say, find the news, turn off the phone, and nest. Like it's like don't try, like if you need to take, like if you are so stressed that you can't show up gently um and contained for your children, then just cancel everything for your week. Just spend the week reading, turn off all the news, spend the book curled up with your kids, reading picture books. Go dip your feet in the ocean if you're near the ocean. Go dip your feet in the river if you're near a river. Go out in nature, leave your phone behind and go find some place quiet, or build a teepee in your backyard. And it's like if you just kind of need to like hold your children close, and it's okay to like to want to cuddle your children, like let's just all get in bed and watch Andy Griffith. Let's all get in bed and just watch some heartwarming movies. Like it is okay to sort of step off of life in order to process or deal with things while still being a present parent. Um and and I think so often as women we also aren't good at like, and I think this is for everyone, but it's okay to go to your husband and be like, "Hey, I need a big hug. I need you to just hold me tonight for 30 seconds. I just need you to hold me tight, squeeze the crap out of me." And that releases serotonin, it releases oxytocin. It's gonna be good for you. It's gonna make you feel bonded. It's gonna make you feel protected and safe. It's gonna release some of the tension you're carrying. So go to your husband and ask for that from him. Don't don't put don't ask your children to counsel you through this. Don't ask your children to hold space for you. Don't ask your children to hold your emotions. If you need to go ask a girlfriend, like we just don't ask for enough hugs. We don't hug enough. And so it's like, go find a sister or a cousin or a friend and just be like, hey, I need a hug. I need a hug. One of my best friends in my life and my roommates in college, she would just be like, hey, when are you gonna be home? Because I had a rough day and I need a hug. And it was just so good for both of us to have this example of female friendship where we could also have this really life-giving physical touch. So go find that. If you need to put all your kids in their rooms for quiet time for an hour and let them listen to books or read or draw, well, you just go cuddle up on your bed for half an hour and just, you know, like just grieve. If you need to cry, it's okay to cry. It's it's the wailing, it's the running away, it's the voicing your fears, and your children will be disturbed by your tears. Though that's life. We can't hide all emotions from our kids. But just be like, just tell them, you're like, everything. The world is gonna be okay because God is on His throne. And mom has this saying, and the kingdom. What is it? The kingdom of heaven.
I'll say it, yeah.
Okay, it's so beautiful, and it's like just tell your children that, and be like, we're gonna be okay. Everything is gonna be okay.
Yeah, I love it. It's so important that it's not that like, your emotions do deserve space. It's true. And I know some of you listening are like, "I didn't even like that guy. He was rude and abrasive. Why do you care?" But it's not about one guy. It's about living in a country that is supposed to be where there's freedom and liberty, where there's free speech, and having someone get shot while they're speaking. So wherever you're at in the political spectrum, and I hope that you can understand the gravity of someone giving a speech and getting shot. This is a big deal. But what is even a bigger deal is that you are one in whom Christ dwells and delights. You live in an unshakable kingdom. The kingdom is not in trouble, and neither are you. What is even a bigger deal is Psalm 46:1. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. It goes on to say that therefore we will not fear though the earth gives way, though the mountains be moved into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble at swelling. And so we do, it goes on. There's a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy habitation of the Most High. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. God will help her when morning dawns. The nations rage, the kingdoms totter. He utters his voice, the earth melts. The Lord of hosts is with us. And the troubling truth is that we live in a world that is immoral. Like I was reading some old quotes from founding fathers, and Benjamin Rush said the only foundation for a republic is to be laid in religion. And so if we are living in a world where people can celebrate death, where people cannot stick up for the unborn even without being castigated, when we live in a world where people are lovers of themselves. Benjamin Rush said, the only foundation for a republic is to be laid in religion. Without this, there can be no virtue. And without virtue, there can be no liberty. And liberty is the object and life of all republican governments. And so if we don't have virtue in our homes, in our communities, we won't have it in our countries, and we will have the kind of chaos that we're experiencing right now in society. But the answer isn't necessarily to go out and have a protest. I don't believe it's to have a revolution. If you look at revolutions in history, that in the Russian Revolution, these terrible people killed the czar's family, completely upended civilization, and what they got after was worse than what they had before. You look at the French Revolution, same thing. Like, they had a terrible situation, and what they got after all the bloodshed was something worse. And so I don't believe that what we're called to is some kind of a revolution in a time of chaos. What we are called to is to be people who obey the Lord, who are people of prayer, people who fast and pray for our nation, people who train their own children to be virtuous and to do what's right, even when nobody around them is doing what's right. And I don't know all the answers to what what we need in the large cultural over, you know, in the big picture. What do we need? Because we're so far off in some ways as a country. Like, when so many women will vote purely on whether or not they can kill their own babies in the womb, we're pretty far gone as a civilization. But in our homes, we can love what is good and hate what is evil. In our homes, we can pray. In our communities, we can, run for local office, be on a local school board. My husband and I do outreach for people who are coming out of drug addiction. We do marriage ministry. There are so many things that you can do in your community to love the people around you, to be there for people who are in trouble, who are hurting, to share the gospel, to have people over, to show hospitality, to just love and be a peacemaker for your own children. And I think it's these small, small things that will help you be faithful no matter what comes. You look at the life of Corrie ten Boom. She was living through the horrors of Nazism, the horrors of the persecution of the Jews, but her family just kept doing the same things they were doing. They just kept reading the Bible at the dinner table, having people over, and then the next thing was opened up to them. The next thing of hiding some Jews or grabbing some extra ration cards. And so God held them and led them into the next thing, whatever that was. And same with Darlene Deibler Rose. She was just doing her mission work in Indonesia. They all got thrown into a prison camp, and just every day she kept doing the next right thing. And you can see this, in the rise and fall of the USSR, the communist country. You can see that there were people who just kept being faithful to God, and their families were a remnant even in the midst of cultural upheaval. And so I think as moms listening, like, do your best to keep your world small in this season, because your children are taking their cues from your peace. If you are feeling peaceful, if you're feeling at rest, if you're able to manage your emotions, give them to God, grieve in private or with a friend, then your children are going to take a cue from you. If you're someone who every area of your life is glimmering with hope, your children are also going to feel hopeful about the future. But if you right now give up, feel overwhelmed by this, start talking to your kids about how awful the world is, they're going to take that cue as well. And so I think it's really important we set the thermostat for our home, we set the culture. And if you're a mom who's needing some extra support right now, on Saturday, September 27th, I'm going to be doing a 1-day restoration home retreat. So it'll be like a workshop from 8 to 1, 8 to 2. I'll have 4 sessions on helping you as a mom develop some healthy habits in your home. And not just the healthy habits, but also I'm going to give you in that workshop some tools for taking some of those toxic thoughts captive and replacing those lies with hopeful truth. I'm going to give you some tools for nurturing your body, especially in times of stress. So mark your calendars for September 27th for the Restoration Home Retreat. It'll be a half-day event. We'll have the link in the show notes. Emily, what would you add to that?
I mean, I think you topped it off so brilliantly. I think there's um such a beauty in being able to process your grief with God and show up for your children the way that the way that you wish your parents maybe had shown up for you. And I think it's okay to also be like, hey, this is what I want, and to give my children, and go after it and give that to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. And one of the things that Emily and I both do in moments of duress, in moments of stress where we don't know what to do, is we actually journal with God. We have a God who's living. Jesus died on the cross, not just to save us for heaven, but to let us enter the Holy of Holies. Like Adam and Eve walked with God and talked with God. They lived in complete intimacy until sin came into the world. And what Jesus did is restored us to that place of intimacy. And so if you are feeling shaken right now, if you're feeling scared right now, there are a lot of ways through, vagus nerve reset and exercises and tapping. There are a lot of ways that you can bring calm. There's an exercise called Shalom Your Body where do the moral reflex even. There are some things that you can do. But one of the things that's been most helpful for Emily and I both is journaling with the Lord and even inviting Jesus to be with us in the present. And so this might look like just using your imagination. So right now, if you're listening, just picture Jesus with you. What if Jesus was sitting across from you, what would he say to you? And maybe even ask him that right now. Like, Jesus, what would you say to me in this moment where I'm feeling scared and I'm feeling overwhelmed? If you were with Jesus and you were sitting on the porch of a beautiful cabin, you were looking out at a lake together, and your kids were playing on the shore and everybody was peaceful and the world was safe, what would Jesus be saying to you in that moment? We have been given an imagination by God, and we can use it for good or evil. We can use it to imagine all the scary things that could happen. We can use it to imagine the terrible things that have happened. Or we can use that imagination to commune with God, to attune with God, to listen to God, to welcome him into your space, to welcome the peaceful presence of Jesus into your space. And if this is a struggle for you, join us for the Restoration Home Workshop. But also, John Eldridge has an app called the Pause app, and he has two programs in there: Experience Jesus and 30 Days to Resilience. We'll link that as well. The Experience Jesus track is so good for just learning to give everyone and everything to God, learning to take authority over your thoughts and your atmosphere, because God is real. He's more real than all the terrible news in the world. And he is with you. He's with your family. And so you can take heart. And I'm just going to pray for us as we close. Lord Jesus, I thank you for each family listening. I thank you for their love for their families and their love for their communities and even their country, God. And I know that this is confusing. It's hard to know what's really going on. And with AI, we really can't know unless something happens right in front of us. But we can know that you are good, that you are true, that you will endure to the end, that your goodness never ends. And so I just pray for each family listening right now, God, that you give them peace that passes understanding, that you would guard their hearts, Lord Jesus, that they would be full of the joy of the Lord. The joy of the Lord be their strength. In Jesus' name, amen.